He's Brett. Brett and I graduated from high school together. He's a very successful guy. He started one of those internet companies, one of those .com companies, made a whole bunch of money, okay? A while ago, he came to Indianapolis, where I live. I'm from Indianapolis, and we're walking through the mall, and this beautiful girl walks by, right? And Brett and I are like, yeah. Wow. And Brett looks at me. Brett looks at me, and Brett says, man, that girl is attractive. All right, that's not exactly what Brett said. But you guys are in high school. Anyway, I said to Brett, I said, yes, Brett, she's very pretty. Again, not exactly what I said, but you get the point. Anyway, I said to Brett, I said, why don't you go ask her to dinner? He said, I couldn't do that. I said, why not? He goes, what if she says no? I said, let me ask you a question, Brett. If you go ask that girl to dinner, and she says no, is she going to pull a big loser sign out of her pocket and put on your head? You wear as a hat the rest of the day in the mall? He says, what? I said, is she going to pull a big blinking neon L out of her pocket and put on your forehead? Did I do that backwards? Yeah, everybody do that too. They're like, oh, loser. And you're like, that's backwards, idiot. But anyway, I see some of you out there right now going, it's always your right hand. It's always your right hand. Anyway. But I'm left-handed. It doesn't matter. So anyway, I'm like, is she going to pull a big blinking neon L out of her pocket and put on your forehead? He goes, you know what, man, that might be. No, actually, that is the dumbest question anyone's ever asked me. I said, okay, I'm just checking. I said, second question, Brett. Are you having dinner with her right now? He said, no, I'm talking to you. I said, okay, I'm just checking. So what you're telling me is this. If you go ask that girl out to dinner, even if she says no, the worst thing that happens, the worst possible outcome is you end up exactly as you are right now, which is not having dinner with her, talking to me. Right? Does that make sense? Whether you ask her out and she says no, or you don't ask her out at all, how many dinners you got? 0. And I can't tell you many truths in life, but I can tell you this. Those who succeed come from those who try. If you do not try, you will not succeed. Brett says, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. He's a very logical guy. So he walks right over to this girl. He taps her on the shoulder. He says, you know what? I don't normally do this, but would you like to have dinner with me? Now, she said no. Okay, this isn't a love story. She went, what? No. And I was like, oh. Maybe that wasn't the right advice. And as Brett turned around and started walking back towards me, he had a smile on his face. And that's when I got a little nervous, right? I'm like, somebody's getting hit? I think it's me, right? And as Brett walked back towards me, I said, all right, man, what's the matter with you? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you just got completely dissed, man. She laughed in your face. It was terrible. What are you smiling for? He goes, you know what? I'm not dead. I said, what? He goes, I'm not dead. He goes, Chris, you realize I'm a successful guy. I've made a bunch of money in my life, but I have been afraid my entire life to ask girls out because I was afraid if they said no, I would die. And I'm not dead. Yeah, right? Pretty excited about that. Now, Brett is a man on a mission, right? Another girl walks by. I'm like, Brett's like a cruise missile. Boom, right there. And the second girl that Brett asked out said no. But the third girl said no. But the fourth girl, and you guys are like, Brett is a loser, right? No. The fourth girl Brett asked out actually went to dinner with him. He realized right then and there, first of all, he didn't care what the girls that said no thought about him. In the grand scheme of life, it didn't make any difference. And secondly, he realized that most of the time when we fail at something, most of the time we fail, we end up right where we started. Now, I don't tell you guys this story about my friend Brett to make you date machines. Okay, that's not my job. Want to go out? I don't want you to like walk in the lobby of the hotel and girls be like, it's the date guy. Ah! Right, that's not really my intention. Okay, I just tell you that story to illustrate if you put aside that fear of failure and you put aside that fear of other people are going to think about you, you're going to be more successful. Now, the second power is the power to affect others. From the time that you're 10 years old, 85%. Now think about how much that is. 85% of the things that you like and the things that you don't like. That's the places you like to go, the places you don't like to go. The things you like to do, the things you don't like to do. 85% of that, and you know what that includes whether you like yourself or you don't like yourself. 85% of that comes from the people around you that are your age. Your peer group has 85% of that. Now, I can't pretend that you have control over how other people make you feel about you. We really have no control over that whatsoever. But you know what? The power comes in this. You have 100% control over how you make other people feel about themselves. You have complete control over that. You know what? I really bet that if I could sit down with each one of you individually and I could convince you that by picking on somebody, by putting them down, by ripping on them, if I could convince you that by making fun of people, you were going to hurt them for the rest of their life, if the things that you said now in high school, they were going to think about when they were 20 and 30 and 40 and 50, and they were going to feel bad about themselves as a 50-year-old person because something you said to them today, if I could convince you of that, I don't think many people would make fun of people. I don't think most of us are that mean. I think we just don't think about it in those terms. We don't realize the power we have to affect other people. And you've got a lot of power there. You can really affect people in positive ways, but you can also affect people in negative ways. I was in a dentist office a while back, and in there was only one magazine. It was a children's magazine. And in this children's magazine, there was an advice column. It was called Dear Betty. I wish there was a new me. I want to be pretty, popular, flashy, and have everyone like me. But all I am is ugly, plain, boring, and I don't have many friends. And this is the part that hit me. It said, soon I'll be in the 4th grade. And I want a new image. I'm pretty weird, too. 3rd grade kid. 3rd grader. And already she thinks she's ugly and boring and plain. Now, do you think her parents told her she was ugly? Probably not. Think her teachers told her she was boring or weird? No. It was the people around her. They had the power over her. They had 85% to make her feel like that. And I think that if I could prove to you that you could do that to other people, you wouldn't put them down. You wouldn't make fun of them. And I know high school's a tough time. I remember being in high school. I remember thinking to myself, okay, how do I get people to want to like me? How do I get people to want to be around me? How do I get people to want to be my friend? You know, there are 2 ways that people go about high school. First way is this, to say, you know what? I don't want people to make fun of me, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bully, and I'm going to intimidate, and I'm going to be so mean to people that they would never dare make fun of me because they know that I can give it back to them twice as bad. And you know what? That might work in the short term. People might not make fun of you, but they're not going to like you. They're not going to want to be around you. They're not going to want you to be their friend. People don't like people that make them feel bad about themselves all the time. Okay? That's a short-term solution. Second solution is to say this. You know what? Whenever I'm around a group of people, I'm going to try to make them feel better about themselves because I'm there. Whenever I'm around a group, I'm going to try to make them feel better about themselves whenever I'm around. And you know what? That's a long-term solution. If you make people feel good about themselves, they're going to want to be around you all the time. My favorite quote in life is this. Everyone lights up a room. Some people light up a room by walking in, and some people light up a room by walking out. Do you want to be that person that when you walk in the room, people go, man, we're glad you're here. Man, it's good to see you. Or do you want to be that person when you walk out of a room, they go, phew, we're glad they're gone. I want to be that person that lights up a room when I walk in. The last power I talk about shows students that there are different ways to deal with frustration. The first way to deal with frustration, simply solve the problem. What's the problem? What's the easiest solution? You're not mad there is a problem. You don't care whose fault it is. What's the problem? What's the solution? Great way to deal with frustration. Second solution, let's say you don't know the answer. Ask for help. There are people in your lives who know more than you do. Ask them for help. That's also a great way to deal with frustration. Now there's a third way that sometimes people deal with frustration, and this is a bad way. This is what you do what I call melting down. And when you melt down, that's when you freak out. You get mad. You yell at people. You blame others for your problems. And when you freak out and you melt down, you don't solve problems. All you do is turn little problems into big problems. Let me give you an example. How many people have ever been to a fast food restaurant, ordered a sandwich a certain way, and there's a pickle on it? And you don't like pickles, so immediately you're like, oh man, pickles! I hate pickles! I can't believe this! You go in front, you're like, ah! Come here! And the guy in the paper hat's like, yeah. But you just chose to let a pickle this big ruin your entire day. Finally, I leave students with something they will always remember to help them keep from overreacting. When I was in the 3rd grade, like most of you. I know some of you are like, no, I'm special. I went straight to 4th grade. I understand. When I was in the 3rd grade, we used to have spiral notebooks with the metal spirals down the side. You guys know what I'm talking about? And if you were cool, if you were kind of out of control, kind of a risk taker in the 3rd grade, you'd unhook that spiral. Oh, yeah. And you'd unspiral it. Exposed wire, baby. It was awesome, right? We're sitting there in class one day, and Derek's pencil breaks. And we had those old-time elementary school desks. Goes up his nose. And it had that little hooky part where it's supposed to hook onto the notebook. It hooks over the middle part of his nose. Inside of his nose. So now Derek has a wire caught in his nose. Now, as I see it, Derek had 3 choices. The first choice, simply lift up on the wire, turn it so the hooky part wasn't over the middle part of his nose, pull it out of his nose, problem solved. Now, Derek's in the 3rd grade. We can't expect Derek to think that rationally. Derek had a second choice. Derek could have gone.
Yes, Derek.
Excuse me. I seem to have a notebook caught in my nose. Can someone please help me? To which my teacher could have come over, lifted up on the wire, turned it and pulled it out his nose, or called for help herself. Again, Derek's in the 3rd grade. We can't expect Derek to think that rationally. Derek's first thought was, I have a wire caught in my nose. I must get it out, right? So he grabbed onto that wire with both hands. And he went, ah! And you know what happened? Nothing. That was not the solution. The solution was to lift, turn, and pull, not to tug. Tugging had absolutely nothing to do with the solution. So when that didn't work, Derek started to melt down a little bit. He started going, now, my teacher, Miss Lockman, is a first-year teacher. In this room, there are 23 other 3rd graders, right? First, it's the girls. The girls are like, he's gonna die! Derek's gonna die! They're all in a big hug circle. Tears are streaming down their face. He's gonna die! Here's a normal day in any school office. Beep. Yes. He's gonna die. He's gonna die. Now, the principal, the assistant principal, the school nurse, and I am not kidding you, an off-duty police officer that happened to be driving by my school, gun drawn, kicks open the door of my 3rd grade classroom where apparently there is a wild animal killing and eating poor Derek. All right, now, I want you to imagine this scene. Now, the craziest thing about that story is this. The simplest, easiest solution at the end of the story was the same solution from the beginning of the story. The simplest, easiest solution never changed. You know what, guys? It never does. Freaking out and melting down doesn't solve problems. Yelling at people doesn't solve problems. Don't tug on the wire. Got that? Put that in your brain. Next time you're really mad at somebody, think, all right, don't tug on the wire. Hope you remember poor Derek. It'll make you laugh, and that'll break the tension. Work together as teams. Reach your greatest potential. Don't tug on the wire. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. You've been awesome. Thanks a lot.